Welcome back to the War Room, my beautiful people. And we are here today after this Anthony Joshua and Usyk fight number 2. And I'm in the War Room again with my boy Eddie Goldman and my sister Malissa Smith. She's a women's boxing historian. You guys, look, we got to talk about this because Eddie, you just wrote the piece "Disgrace by the Red Sea," and it was like, if you're looking at sportsmanship, and I think when we talk about champions, we have an expectation of how they're to perform and react to devastating losses because sometimes world class athletes lose. So, can we talk? Let's just talk about Joshua's behavior. Do you think this was just he loses his cool? It was an expectation he should have won. He thought maybe he won. I don't know. What do you think, you guys? I'm going to pass it off to you, Eddie, because
Well,
you kicked off the article. It was a great article. So let's start with you.
thank you. It's on Patreon and you should subscribe to it instead of reading all the garbage that didn't mention 90% of the issues that I
Right.
raised on there. This fight took place in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and the WWE has been running a lot of shows recently in Saudi Arabia. And this one was really not far off from a WWE show in terms of governance and integrity from top to bottom. And if you look in the main event, most people are talking about Anthony Joshua's meltdown and baby-like tantrum after he lost the second fight in a row to Usyk. And nobody stopped him. Security didn't stop him. His corner didn't stop him. When he stormed out of the ring, when he stormed back, when he grabbed the mic, when he took some of Usyk's belts and threw them out of the ring. And when this should have been the moment to celebrate Usyk with another victory, and we could get into the fight itself, which I think has been overrated by a lot of people. But in any case, it's a clear-cut victory for Usyk, cemented his status as number one pound for pound in the world. It was really big for Ukraine, where he had gone back to Ukraine to fight in the military against Russian aggression. They said, go and train. We want you to get on the world stage to get attention to Ukraine. And he did. And this should have been his moment. Instead, Joshua stole it with some semi-coherent nonsense discussing stuff about the fight. And if he had a real corner there, if he had real friends there, they would have just ushered him out of the ring, taken him to the back, let him shoot off his mouth without all the cameras and microphones there, let him calm down. And there was a post-fight press conference, which there usually is, and let him talk and say what he had to say there without starting a whole commotion and acting crazy there. And the fans, and it was kind of rare for this to happen, I think in a big fight in Saudi Arabia, were booing. You could hear that when you watched the video of his tirade. And it was not only bad sportsmanship, but it was his bad governance that went on. And of course, you had this fight was a split decision, which is an absurd verdict. You had Glenn Feldman in the United States, a veteran judge who was flown into Saudi Arabia just for this fight. This is the only fight that he judged, and he scored it for Joshua. What is this? When people see verdicts
What?
like this, yeah, that's why it was a split decision. He scored it
Oh,
for
wow.
Joshua. People say, was this incompetence or corruption? You can be
I say the latter.
you can be the judge of that. I'm going to let people make up their own minds for this. And you had a situation with Joshua where he has his big crying and meltdown and all this stuff. This is a guy who showed tremendous lack of character. He shut his mouth when he was asked about supporting Salma al Shehab, the woman who was recently sentenced to 34 years in a Saudi prison for using Twitter to support Saudi dissidents. And she was sentenced in the name of terrorism, that this was an act of terrorism. He was asked about this. He was asked about other people specifically that were executed early in the year in a mass execution in Saudi Arabia, and he shut his mouth. He kept his mouth shut.
Wait,
But
so he refused? Did he like refuse to answer the question,
yeah,
or
he was asked by a couple of reporters, AFP and someone else asked him specifically about this, and he said, "Well, I'm not an internet sleuth, and
Oh my
I
lord!
don't know." He just brushed it aside and poo-pooed and refused to really get into it. It also showed a lack of character. I mean, this is a guy that I thought had the potential to
Right?
be a real world-class leader, to be somebody that could become as popular as maybe not as popular, but the most well-known since Muhammad Ali, with an international following, and
Mm-hmm.
instead this is the route that he took. And this is just an example of the governance in this fight. We don't know who chose these judges. We don't know who chose these officials. This was it the sanctioning bodies. There supposedly was some mysterious Dubai boxing commission that you can't find any information about online. There's no transparency in this, which is not surprising given that you're holding it in a monarchy, and Skill Challenge Entertainment and the Saudi Ministry of Sport are involved in running this. This is what you get when you go to a place like this. And up and down the card, you saw the lack of decent governance. You saw
Right.
the fight. I didn't see all the fights, but I found a bunch of them online.
I
And you
didn't
had
watch it at all.
you have the IBF heavyweight eliminated between Philip Hergovich and Zhang Zhilei. And a lot of people, I expected Hergovich was going to blow this guy out. Didn't happen. Zhang knocked him down early in the fight. And I felt Zhang did enough over the course of the fight to win. Of course, it was a unanimous decision for Hergovich, who was tied up with Matchroom Boxing. And you could find a lot of people felt that Zhang really should have won the fight.
Including their own announcers, by the way, which was a decent team because you got Corey Erdman from Canada, who's as straight as they come, and he thought it was Zane. So
Wow.
Right.
because
Even though he
usually
was the
Matchroom
underdog.
people, right? Even though,
Sometimes underdogs win. Before the fight,
yeah,
I would have said, what happened, but then you watch the fight. Then you had the Badu Jack, the cruiserweight. I didn't see this fight, but many people thought this split decision over Richie Rivera was a horrible decision. And that was one also. There was a 4-minute round in that. You had earlier, this is billed as a historic first women's professional fight in Saudi Arabia, ended up, to me, being a fiasco. On the one hand, they did let the women box in the kind of usual outfits that you see in the rest of the world, women boxing, and rather than having to cover up their whole bodies. But you had Ramla Ali throws a couple of punches. She did throw a right hand that knocked out Crystal Garcia Nova's mouthpiece, and she did knock her down, but she wasn't out. And Garcia went down, and she knelt, and she looked outside the ring, and she stayed there until the referee counted 10. And I
yeah,
wrote that
she just said, "I'm done."
What?
this was at best horrid matchmaking.
Oh my
This
goodness.
kind of fight. It was a disgrace.
So she
And
didn't want to get knocked out.
And a disgrace for Ramla Ali, who really
Right.
needed this was an 8-rounder and needed the 8 rounds.
Right.
She
Yeah.
needed a decent fight, at least 6 rounds. Let her go that so she
And-
can be in a position
was
to
it and was it something else? We don't know. That based on the governance of this thing. And even one of the real early undercard fights, they had a fighter named Badr Samrin of Jordan. He was awarded a 4th round stoppage over a fighter, Fiad Tarverdi of Azerbaijan, with just a little bit of time left in the last round. And Tarverdi wasn't hurt. I mean, he was losing that round. He probably would have lost the fight, but now it goes on the record as a knockout or a TKO. And this is the kind of nonsense that goes on. I haven't seen anybody discuss the issue of governance in this anywhere.
Right.
I've read tons of articles. I've heard all kinds of interviews, a lot of them from people who were there, up and down. Most of the media didn't even get right what location, what building this was. You could still see on BoxRec and other places, including the New York Times, which did shit research into this, saying it was the Jeddah Superdome. It was not. It was the King Abdullah Sports City Sports Hall, or sometimes called the Arena. But the point is, that's a 10,000 seat building. The only one that really got it right was TalkSport, the British, who with the British radio broadcasters for this, did an article on this. So again, like I'm saying, this is like something out of the WWE, the whole thing from start to finish. And in terms of the fight, Joshua, he was a little bit better. He was a little more competitive and aggressive, but he threw fewer jabs than he did in the first fight. What is all this about? And after 3 rounds, his new trainer, Robert Garcia, is telling him, "You're doing great. You're up 3 rounds to nothing." That was utter nonsense. Nobody
my
had Joshua up
Lord.
3 rounds to nothing after the first 3 rounds. And then in the 9th round, that was Joshua's big round where he hurt Usyk, and then he let him off the hook. He couldn't
Couldn't
continue.
finish.
And he couldn't finish him, which this is the it separates great heavyweights from not so
Mhm.
great ones. And the last 3 rounds went to Usyk, and then Joshua was complaining. And
Yeah, and
so
then in the 12th round in particular, he did 0. He did absolutely nothing in the 12th round. Joshua.
yeah,
It's like
and what was his corner? His corner was just
letting
being
him go away
sycophants
with it.
again.
Yeah, I mean, he was better. Joshua was better off with his long-term trainer than this crap. You know,
Wow,
Yeah.
no
to tell a
shit.
fighter, "Oh, you got this, babe. You know, you're 3 rounds up against a fighter like Usyk. Are you out of your mind?"
I want
How da-
Joshua to get rid of
That's
those yes
criminal.
men. That's some
You know,
bullshit.
that is just malpractice
Right.
as a coach.
Shit,
Heck,
what?
malpractice.
Right.
The
Get
whole
rid of the
thing.
yes men, Joshua. Get rid of them. You don't want people telling you what you want to hear. That's some bullshit. You will never grow.
No.
Never, never, never.
Never advance.
And again, I go back to the issue of governance. I did not see this discussed anywhere by the so-called boxing media. The boxing media, with a tiny handful of exceptions, are just getting the worst stenographers and PR people that are serious about this. You see, in virtually every other professional sport, even amateur and college sports, you see more serious discussion of rules and governance and integrity than you do in boxing. There's even more in MMA, believe it or not, as screwy as that whole thing is. And
Right.
this isn't really discussed. These are really basic questions. So it was very, very disappointing. And for Joshua, I think it's a tremendous setback for him. He's not in the next set of discussions about what's going to
Anything.
happen in the heavyweight division.
No.
Now you're having Fury every day saying something different. He wants $500 million. It wasn't clear if he said dollars or pounds, but in either case,
It's
this
a
is
lot
what
of
he
money.
wants to fight Usyk in a unification fight. And now, and after the fight, Usyk said he only wants to fight Fury. That's it. It's unclear if he was saying if he doesn't get that fight, he's hanging it up,
He's done.
Wow.
or
He
he's just
really
going
wants to
back to
fight Fury.
fighting. Yeah, or he's going back to fight in the war.
Oh,
And
wow.
all the sanctioning bodies, even if there is a unification fight, what you're going to see then is all the sanctioning bodies are going to start pushing their mandatories to have their own titles and stripping them. This is what happened with Lennox Lewis when he regained his title against Rockman, when he unified it became undisputed against Holyfield, and then a little later he lost against Rockman and regained it. All the sanctioning bodies moved to have their own mandatories fight. So now we have in the next couple of months all these mandatory fights to create mandatory challenges. So if and when they start stripping whomever has the title, they'll be in a position to get big sanctioning fees. So you had on this show, of course, on August 20th, they said Hrgovic and Jank for the IBF eliminator. September 4th, you have one of two WBC heavyweight eliminators with Andy Ruiz and Luis Ortiz. September 24th, the WBO eliminator with Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker. October 15th, the other WBC eliminator with Deontay Wilder and Robert Helenius. That has now been officially announced. And on October 29th, the WBA is having what they're calling a heavyweight eliminator, where they both have the opportunity to fight for a world title in the near future between Hughie Fury and Michael Hunter. You can scratch your head on this one. And it's unclear the winner of that fight, would they get the WBA regular champion, Daniel Dubois, or would they be having another eliminator, or would they be eligible to fight the WBA super champion? And it's just an utter chaos and utter mess in boxing.
Right. That is madness. That's like, is that 4 different sanctioning bodies I just heard you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
The 4 big ones.
4 big ones?
Right. Right.
Oh my
and
word.
Fury relinquished his Ring Magazine belt. So Ring Magazine removed him from the ratings, and they said the winner of Usyk Joshua would be the ring champion, and that, of course, was
Yeah,
Usyk.
and that's
Yep.
Usyk. So he
But
has the ring belt.
he may not be retired. So not that he cares that much. And the WBC is supposed to have a deadline of the 26th of August for Fury
Tomorrow.
to decide. But but they may extend that. Who knows? You know, they always extend and change these things. So it's just utter chaos and utter madness. And the move for an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world is just, who knows what's going to happen
Well,
with
we
this.
don't know what's going to happen. And, as you say, Fury's changing his mind every day. Usyk is, he doesn't really, he's proved everything. I mean, it'd be nice for
Right.
him to be undisputed again, but for a second weight class for men, that'll look nice on his resume of life. But he's got other problems to worry about than this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And,
he could-
just as a punctuation point, I just want to finish on the Ring Magazine belt. That's one of the belts that Joshua threw out of the ring,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was a big
That
deal.
is so disrespectful, though. I just can't
It's
believe he
just-
went there. He went all the way there.
He went there, he left, and then he came back, and then he starts this rambling thing about Ukraine, and he's going to support Ukraine, and where do I send the money? I mean, it's just
Oh, yeah.
wacko.
Yeah.
Like so out of himself. He was in a mental breakdown.
Yep, that's sad. But
And-
what's really sad to me is I was on Instagram and I think I saw the latest promotional advertisement for Bivol and what's the kid he's fighting, Lopez, I think his last name is Lopez. I can't remember. But and they're fighting in the Middle East. And so I made a comment like, is every fight now going to be fought in the Middle East? And guys are coming up going, who cares so long as a good fight is made? I'm like, because there are athletes that are outspoken that will go to jail. There are women being put in prison for tweets. They have a snitch at. The Saudis have a snitch at. I mean, come on now. So I just don't understand. Like, sports washing is so real. It's very effective. People have no clue how to connect the dots.
But also to Eddie's earlier point, these jurisdictions don't know how to run a boxing match.
Right.
They don't
to make
have
matters worse.
The years of experience. They don't have the governance. They have nothing. They have 4-minute rounds. They have all of this other crap.
Suck.
It's terrible. Suck. And they're importing judges to make it seemingly legit. But look what happened with Glenn Feldman. I'm sorry. What planet was he on to have in any way, shape, or form given that to Joshua? It's an impossibility to give it to Joshua.
Well, we know he'll have another job with Matchroom, Eddie Hearn.
Well, as I said, at least with Corey Feldman doing the commentary, half of the commentary team, at least you got something, straight without all this nonsense on top of it and constantly egging on one fighter over another.
That is
but Very,
Well,
very, very disappointing.
that's the world of boxing, folks. So look, what else you guys want to cover today? Anything else?
I
Eddie?
want to,
Oh,
yeah, we got 2 weeks
Melissa?
left till, the huge all women's fight card at the O2 in London.
Right
Headlining that
on.
card is our lady, our girl, our woman, our brilliant, undisputed queen of the gold medals, Clarissa Shields. She
And
will
guess
be.
what cup I have today? This is the Detroit mug. I know you can't see it
Yeah,
today, but
okay.
look, there
So,
you go.
our
Detroit,
Detroit, our Flint, our woman from Flint, our blue-haired
repping
beauty.
Michigan. That's right.
And she is putting her IBF, WBA, WBC, WBO belts on the line. She's fighting Savannah Marshall for undisputed.
Right.
And that's gonna just be some friggin' brilliant fight.
That's
You got
gonna be fire.
Fire, and then you got Michaela Mayer and Alicia Baumgartner. They're going to be unified at World Super Featherweight, and oh man, these top four ladies, they are just
Right.
throwing
This is gonna be a good card.
it's beyond shade. They are throwing umbrellas. They are
Right.
throwing, you name it. They are throwing entire buildings at each other.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. And it's in the United States, it'll be on ESPN because yeah, but not
ESPN
ESPN Plus, so it'll be streamed.
Right.
But it'll be in the afternoon. And then you got the other big American, Ginny Fuchs, who's that actually there's one kind of cute little thing, which is that Ginny Fuchs, Michaela Mayer, and Clarissa Shields were the American Olympic team in 2016, and the three of them will be on the card together. So there's something very sweet about that, and they really have an affection for one another that's very, very beautiful. You got Caroline Dubois, who's the British fighter. She's at 3-0 now. I think she's a little overhyped, but it'll be good to give her an opportunity. But basically on the undercard, these are all really new fighters. Some of their opponents are, shall we say, true opponents, like Beck Connolly. God, can't believe she's fighting again. She's 3-15 at this point, and she'll be fighting Sarah Legman. That's, I know we've discussed that in the past,
it's just crazy.
It's her decision to go again. But more than anything, it's at the O2 in London. It's at a huge arena, and it's not $1 million a piece, but they are certainly going to share $1 million. So it's really kind of cool.
The pretty fat paydays for the ladies.
Fat paydays for the ladies, and
that's right.
Bragging rights, and
that's
an opportunity
and history, herstory.
And beyond, and because of Clarissa Shields wins, this will be her third undisputed crown in boxing. So
wow,
that is
incredible,
just amazing. Super welterweight, super middleweight, and then this will be middleweight. So a lot to support and a lot to feel really happy about. And it's also demonstrating that Top Rank is sort of all in now on women in the sport. So we'll see how this all goes.
How many top ranked people are on that show, though? It's mainly a boxer card.
It's
Michaela Mayer, and who else?
And Ginny Fuchs.
Okay.
It is a boxer card, and because of Michaela Mayer, they have the ESPN deal, because Boxer and Sky don't really have an outlet in the United States since the DAZN deal ended. Some of their fights are occasionally on ESPN Plus. Doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason, because there are fights coming up and they're not going to be broadcast. So we don't even know, Amanda Serrano's fighting next week. We don't know how that's going to be seen in the United States. So a lot of issues on the Sky Boxer cards in the United States, but this will definitely be on Top Rank and ESPN, and is now that Sinisa Estrada has signed with Top Rank, we can look for some big things there as well.
Wow, she signed with Top Rank?
She signed with Top Rank, which was a shock, because we figured, Matchroom would
I'm surprised.
No, Top Rank came up with the goods for her, and she's like, great. So she'll still be on ESPN, because that's, She was doing some
Right.
ESPN for Golden Boy, and then they switched over to DAZN. But I think she's going to be fighting sometime in the fall. I want to see November-ish, but nothing's come out yet. But yeah, she signed. That was huge news
That is big
that
news.
they brought her in at that level, and they're starting. I think Christina Cruz, who was also had a long amateur career as a national champion, I believe she is fighting with Top Rank. I'm not exactly sure how that's working out yet.
We'll have our fact checkers fact check that.
Yeah, not entirely sure how that's working out, but I know she was on the card.
Right.
Okay, that's all I
That's
got.
all you got for women's boxing. All right, Eddie, what's up? Anything else you want to cover today, brother?
Well, just look to more fights taking place in Saudi Arabia, despite all the disgraceful behavior and activity, both in and
Boo.
out of the ring, because that's considered the favorite location. If Fury and Usyk fight,
Ugh.
that fight to be held. They've both been there already, so it won't be new for them. It's something that Saudi Arabia wants to do. They're making now that at least in people's minds, the pandemic is eased a little bit, and there's certainly more international travel. You're seeing Saudi Arabia bidding for all kinds of stuff all around the world. They're going to likely make a joint bid with Egypt for the 2030 FIFA World Cup. They're interested in eventually hosting the Olympics, and there's a whole series of events that are either hosting or trying to host the 2023 World Combat Games, which is just next year. It sounds far off. The 2025 Asian Indoor and Martial Arts Games, the 2034 Asian Games, and they're bidding to hold the 2029 Asian Winter Games, where they're going to build some ski slopes, even though given the desert climate in Saudi Arabia, they plan on doing that. And there are other things that are going on. And the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who was at the fight, sitting up in the royal box with Infantino, the head of FIFA, and all these other big shots were there. He's very much behind it, and they're building up their boxing program. They're serious about doing that. Kremlev of the IBA was just in Saudi Arabia, met with the Saudi Arabian Boxing Federation and a number of other federations. I'm sure that one thing that went on, he's looking for a new sponsors for IBA once the deal with Gazprom expires at the end of the year. And all these characters are there. That's where the money is. They're willing to overspend more than if it were held, say, in Europe or the United States, where the promoters would sit down and look, say, okay, this is what we can afford. This is what we're going to bring in because they want to make money. They're not looking to make money on each individual fight. They're looking at this as a long-term investment to build up tourism, to build up their sports programs, that they become a force in world sport. So look for more stuff to be going on there, like it or not.
And I don't like it, and I'm not supporting it. I'm not watching any fight hosted out of Saudi Arabia. I don't care what fighter's fighting. That's how I feel about it. So,
and you could find these, you could find between YouTube and Daily Motion and other places, you could find these fights, because then you're not paying for them. That's the key thing. They're obviously important fights, most of them anyway, that we talked about. So you might want to watch these things.
Mm-hmm. No, that's what I got you for, Eddie. You and Malissa. All right, folks. Look, I think that's gonna wrap it up in the War Room today. We will see you guys next time. We are all about sports justice radio, okay, and independent journalism. If you guys want to support that, please check us out on Twitter. Eddie, tell the people where they can find you, brother.
You can find me on Twitter at NHP News, and I've been putting up a lot of political stuff there too. There's a song that came out also called, the English translation, Putin is a Dickhead, which is based on a football chant of Ukrainian fans that came out after uh, battles in the war in 2014, and it's become sort of a folk hero song there. And you could find me on Patreon, patreon.com/Eddie Goldman, where you're not going to get the propaganda. I covered the beginning of this fight and the fight itself from many different angles. So there's a whole bunch of different articles there. And when you subscribe, you not only get the latest article, you get all the other subscriber articles. So support independent journalism. And my site is eddiegoldman.com. And that's where you find me.
Right on. All right, Melissa, tell the people where they can find you.
Hi, on Twitter, I'm at Girlboxing Now. Same thing on Instagram. And my website is girlboxing.org. Hope to
That's
see
right. My little Wordle buddy. All right, fam. You guys can find me on Twitter at Angry Afro Radio because I am that angry Black woman, and on Instagram at Fight Goddess Fitness. So you guys check us out. You guys stay tuned for the next episode. We'll be back next week, hopefully with some new material, because I'm tired of talking about these crooked, corrupt fools out of Russia and whatever other country these guys make up the IBA. So you guys stay tuned. We'll see you guys next week. Peace, love, and push-ups.